G'day and welcome to another one of my videos. Today we're going to have a look at how we find the area of a rectangle and a square and what the definition of area is. So let's get started. So the definition. The area of a two-dimensional closed figure is the amount of space enclosed by the figure, so the amount inside it. So here we have a rectangle and we're talking about this shaded part in here. So that's the area, that's the part that's enclosed by the rectangle. So we determine the area of a figure. The basic way is by counting squares inside the figure. So what we do is we can break that up into squares, but we do want to make sure that we end up with the same answer by counting the same size squares. So there's no point in putting all these little squares in if someone else is putting in the larger squares. So we want to make sure that we end up getting the same answer. So what we do is we measure that particular area by counting the number of square units, and we can write that as either square units or units squared. Now normally we don't just talk about units, we talk about whether it's square millimeters or square centimeters or square meters or square kilometers. For those who use imperial measurements, then you'll be talking about square inches and square feet, etc. But here we're looking at whatever the measurements we are in here, and that way we get the right answer and the same answer. So in this particular one, if we count the number of squares, we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And there's 6 across the bottom, and there's 4 up there. So we've got 6 lots of 4. So 1 lot of 6, 2 lot of 6, 3 lot of 6, and 4 lots of 6 gives us our 24 square units. Notice I didn't have square centimeters or millimeters or anything there because I didn't say what measure or unit of measurement we have there. So let's have a look at some examples where we're going to count the number of squares in each of the figures. So we've got a rectangle here that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares long. And we've got another 6 up here, so 6 and 6 gives us an answer of 12 square units. Now, I haven't told you whether they are centimeters or meters or anything, so that's why we've got units squared there. So let's have a look at our second one. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and another 6 makes 12, and another 6 makes 18. And then we've got our third one over here. We've got a square here, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and another 4 is 8, another 4 is 12, and another 4 is 16. So we get 16 square units. Okay, so let's have a look at some here. We've got a rectangle and another rectangle and a square. And we can actually put in the squares for each of the figures. And we can say that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 across there, 7 centimeters. And we've got another 7 here, another 7 there, and another 7 there. So we've got centimeter by centimeter, so 1 square centimeter this time, so I've got units. And we can then say, well, we've got 7 lots of 4, or 4 lots of 7, and that gives us 28 square centimeters. So this time I know that I'm using centimeters, so I've got square centimeters there. Well, we can do the same with the next rectangle. So we've got 6 square centimeters up here and 5 square centimeters across. So 1 lot of 6, 2 lots of 6, 3 lots of 6, 4 lots of 6, 5 lots of 6. So our area is 5 lots of 6 centimeters, and we end up with 30 centimeters squared. So again, we've got centimeters there. And then we can do the same with the square. Put in our squares, square centimeters, remembering this is 3 here and 3 down there. So I've got 3 lots of 3, and 3 lots of 3 gives us our 9 centimeters squared. Okay, but you may have noticed the shorter way of us doing that in working out the area of each of the figures. Just multiply the length of the rectangle by the width or the breadth of the rectangle. Okay, so the length by the width, and we can do the same with the square, length by the width. So to find the area of a rectangle, we simply multiply the length by its breadth. Okay, and breadth is just a fancy word for width. So we've got a rectangle, we need to know its length and its breadth. Another rectangle, we need to know its length and its breadth. And a third rectangle, we need to know its length and its breadth. So, as we said, the area of a rectangle is length times breadth. And we get a shorter way of writing that because in maths we like to shorten things. We're using A for area, capital A, L for length, and B for breadth. And we know with algebra we don't need to write our multiplication sign in between. It automatically means that. So area equals length times breadth. And that's the rule that we can use to find the area of a rectangle. And we can do the same for a square, remembering that the length and the breadth of the square are the same. Okay, so just as we said, find the area of the square, just treat it like a rectangle. And we need to know its length and its breadth. Same with another square. Just be careful, just because I've rotated it around doesn't mean it's not a square. Some people go, oh, that's a diamond now. It's not. It's a square, or we don't tend to call them diamond, we tend to call them a rhombus. So, again, we need to know its length, and we need to know its breadth. And so area is length times breadth, just like the rectangle. And so there's our shorter way of writing it. Or there is actually a separate formula that we can use for a square. So what we can actually do is, instead of calling it a length, we call it a side. And we know that all the sides are the same. And so this side is the same as that side. And so the area is its length, which is the side, and its breadth, which is the other side, so side times side. So the area is side squared. And again, we can shorten that to A for area and S for side. Just be careful of your S's that they don't look like a 5. So that's a mistake that some people fall into. Okay, so in summary, the area of a rectangle can be found using this formula. Area equals length times breadth. And the area of a square can be found using area equals side squared. But remember, if you don't want to try and remember a separate formula, you can just remember the area of a rectangle, and it will be that you can use that for the area of the square where the length and the breadth are the same. So let's do some examples. So we want to find the area of each of these. So what I tell my students is write down the rule, regardless of how simple it is. Write down the rule first so that we can see that you're using the right rule and what you're trying to do. Substituting what you know, we know that the length is 8 meters and the breadth is 3 meters. So area equals 8 meters times 3 meters. And we get 24 square meters. So let's do the same with the area of the square. So I can use the area of a square formula, A equals S squared, or I could have used that length times breadth for a rectangle. So the side is 7 millimeters, so the area is 7 millimeters squared, and we get 49 millimeters squared. I don't have to put that in brackets there, which I've done, just doing a little bit of algebra at the same time. Okay, another rectangle, length times breadth. So our length is 6 kilometers, our width is 2 kilometers, and it doesn't matter that I've rotated the rectangle around. And we just go length times breadth, and we get 12 square kilometers. So what you now need to do is to practice, and practice some more, and practice again. And the more that you do that, the easier things will become. So I hope you found this video useful, and I'll be creating some more on further areas shortly.